We're gonna keep Dr. Dre's name in the atmosphere for a while with the NWA movie um, blowing up and his album making waves. That's a bunch of stuff. So we're gonna look at Dr. Dre's The Chronic, and I know most people are probably gonna say it's a bona fide classic. It has no flaws, and it paved the way for rap as a whole. But we're not going to overlook in this review the fact that there were some errors. So, and naturally there's always going to be, but just the thing about it is that, well, this is quite the sharp release. Let's take a look at what it did do first. So, there was a style. Dr. Dre was a really sharp producer in 1992, and it started with some of the songs that we heard that year, but he did more things than that. This album has some really hot production that was different from a lot of things that came out before 92. And I will say that this is probably about the oldest album in rap I will listen to. So it's just one of those records that's kind of like an easel. People will make things using the timetable that Dr. Dre did. So the reason why I say that is because it was a changer. But if you look at an album by Tupac, like, did these albums, which I'm going to review, did these albums change the game as much? So it's hard to explain. It'd probably take me another 15 minutes to explain it, but you just have to realize that this production was found throughout the rest of the decade. So that was one thing. The next thing was he found Snoop Dogg, the Dog Pound, and Nate Dogg, and a bunch of other people that showed up throughout the 90s. Now, most of these people were poised to blow up, but just due to the screw ups of gangster rap in the 90s, not every one of these guys had as successful as a career. Snoop Dogg had his murder trial, the Dog Pound lacked a hit single, and like the rest of them just fell prey to, just too much gangsta, not enough, content. But that was 1992, and we didn't know that then. Then on top of that, like, the verses were just hard hitting. He said things, and it just happened to be, he was probably slicker than a lot of people that you knew at the time. So this wasn't Vanilla Ice. Even though I like Vanilla Ice, you could tell he was going to be here in another 15 years. But we'll get to the complaints. Can you smoke to this album? I would hope that an album called The Chronic you could smoke to, and the answer is yes, you can. First song I would go to would probably be Let Me Ride, These Nuts, The Day the Niggas Took Over, A Nigga with a Gun. These are all great songs to smoke to. Rat Tat Tat, and Fuck with Dre Day. These are all great songs to smoke to. And I want you to know, I didn't realize this, but there's only 11 songs on this album. There's like 4 skits on here, and then an intro and an outro. So 3 skits and an intro and an outro is 5 songs that are not actually songs. So it's really just 11 songs packed in. But alright, the production, now it's pretty, Dr. Dre was a producer, so this is the point where we're going to grade him a bit. Let Me Ride is an instantly hit of a song. I feel like that one's super catchy. You Should Know the Song, G Thing. These Nuts is a surprise. A Nigga with a Gun has the best beat, one of the best beats on the whole release. But then I also like The Day the Niggas Took Over and Rat Tat Tat. So these are some good ones. Bitches Ain't Shit's another one. This, about 8 songs out of the 11 songs work. But alright, the unheard songs. So we're going to talk about the songs that work, and then I'll tell you what I didn't like about this release. So I like 6 songs out of 11, and that's Fuck with Dre Day, Let Me Ride, G Thang, D's Nuts, A Nigga with a Gun, and Bitches Ain't Shit. All these are produced well. They feel like definable songs, and they don't have, you know, they don't feel loose or unorganized or unprofessional. Um, there were 2 almost songs, which I was kind of on the fence about, but I think I'll probably end up liking them quite a bit. The Day the Niggas Took Over and Rat Tat Tat were both songs that kind of had like some creeping beats, and Dr. Dre is on them. So these are some extra songs that I'm not going to lower the score because of these songs. I'm actually probably going to raise it. So these are some extra ones that, I just am kind of liking. But the 3 songs I didn't like were Lil Ghetto Boy, Lyrical Gangbang, and Stranded on Death Row. So those are the ones that they just kind of felt unofficial. Dr. Dre was really trying to provide a platform for a lot of people, and it almost feels like it's a Death Row album more than Dr. Dre, just because he's got a lot of folks, a lot of supposed kin on this release that were going to come out. And, we did see them, and if you're looking for more Dr. Dre, I'd recommend these 2 albums. I'd recommend Doggy Style and Dog Food. These are like the next ones that had that California sound. And then I'd check out Exhibit, Too Short, and E40. And, from there you should be able to find more people. But those are some of the big ones. But the weaknesses of this album are simply that, can't think of them on the dot, but Snoop Dogg is not emphasized nearly enough. There's 11 songs, and I really felt like he was only on like the 2 songs that you heard on the radio. And, these guys are like chocolate and peanut butter, so it just is like, why didn't they realize that? Because you don't hear Dr. Dre at all on Doggy Style, and it's 7 years before you hear them again. So it just did not make sense to me that this winning combination just had, they really kind of, were sparingly with these 2 as a collaboration. The other thing is just that the other guys that were touted don't necessarily get the best song to appear on. Nate Dogg's appearance was nailed bang right on the head. But like Daz and Corrupt, I just didn't feel like there was a song as good as G Thang for them to be on. Dre Day and G Thang, both of these were good platforms because they felt like regular solid rap songs. But like Lyrical Gangbang does not feel like that, and it just doesn't feel like if we're going to push these guys to be next, they needed a better song for that push. So, it just felt like Corrupt was just almost like a goon, kind of. He was just one of Death Row's goons. And everyone else that's on here that I'm not mentioning, that's even more so. But, I will say that Bitches Ain't Shit is probably like one of the best songs for this platform, because we get the Dog Pound and Snoop Dogg on this record. And, it just lets people know. I don't know, I'm just about emphasis and, seeing that, the West Side, for this run that California had. You think of songs like California Love and all these people that were repping for California. It still was not, there were things that could have been made, and this is disappointing because I would have really liked to have seen, had people talk about Daz and Corrupt like they talk about Snoop Dogg, which is something that just doesn't happen. And it's the same thing with Exhibit. These people that were coming up are nothing more than pending. But I guess that's not really a problem with Dr. Dre. I'm just saying that these guys that he was trying to push, not every one of them made it. But, other than that, like this is a really excellently produced album. And just the fact that this was the production that was copied years down the road should let you know that it's a high score. Now, obviously, you think that an album that does this is going to get a 10, right? Well, can I really complain about this album just because Snoop Dogg wasn't on it enough? I did like 8 out of 11 songs, so obviously I'm going to recommend it, and I will probably give it, a 10, but, if I had to review, like, the Death Row run, I'd probably give that, like, a lower score. I'm not, just because Tupac and all these other cats, even they just didn't quite drop as many classics. We needed, like, those 5-star albums repeatedly. But I will review some of them. You're definitely going to see them in the future. So, yeah, it's a 10. And the future, I mean, Dr. Dre just dropped an album this month, so go check out Compton. Is this album social? That is kind of difficult just because, like, I feel like Snoop Dogg, people are going to say, well, I like Dre, but I don't know if I like anyone other than Snoop Dogg. A lot of casual listeners probably are not going to care about his, his lackeys or, people. They're not lackeys, but just, people that did not quite get as big as him. So, yeah, I mean, Snoop Dogg, obviously, but just very few other people are going to matter. And there's a lot of guests on this album, so, there's just not enough songs outside of the radio songs that we can say are just definable. So, that's kind of the thing. I mean, Lil Ghetto Boy is not it. It just doesn't have, like, that appeal of Let Me Ride. Lyrical Gangbang doesn't. Rat Tat 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 is, kind of, it might work. So I'm going to give it like a 7.5, just because, the songs that you heard from Dr. Dre, casual people, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get them to listen to anything by him besides the songs you've already heard. So that's just something to pay attention to. But, Snoop Dogg, it worked a little bit better, but even on that album, like once you got past Gin and Juice, it was just kind of like, well, we need like more hits, just thinking of songs like, that some of these rap artists are just so good at dropping. But, I mean, 7.5 is still good. So, can it be top? Probably not, just look out for that. So yeah, I give this album a 10 and a 7.5 social. Subscribe for more fun.